and welcome to the Royal Geek Podcast. I'm your host tonight, Justin Sandoval, aka Sandy, and I am joined tonight, as always, by Anthony Amato, who we like to call Shamato. That's right, no T-Roll again. He is out of the country, so what do? I bring in the big guns. We have a guest tonight. Jordan Mosley returns again. Sir. Jordan, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. And you know, Shamato, it's funny. What kind of content are we doing tonight?
Quack, quack.
DC. We're doing DC.
Oh, yes, you are right.
And so who is conveniently missing again?
It is always.
Yes.
He just always happens to be out of town.
Yeah.
Or unable to be reached.
Yeah.
Or doesn't want to do it.
Yeah. He's in another country. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen T-Roll in like 6 or 7 months.
You know.
Does he exist?
Yeah.
Where did we put him?
This is like the Kate Middleton thing. Like,
yeah.
Like,
yes, the scandal of where she's at. Oh, that's so good.
Turns out she just had cancer.
Yeah, it turns out, yeah. But T-Roll does not have cancer, hopefully. Sorry, T-Roll, if we put that on you. But anyway, Jordan is here to help us review DC's The Penguin. That's right. We are going to be talking about The Penguin, the entire first season / series. I don't think there's going to be a season 2. I'm not sure. We will find that out in probably a couple weeks. But yeah, we're excited. Before I jump into all of that, thank you so much for listening to the Royal Geek Podcast. Please like, subscribe, follow, review, everything that you can possibly listen to us on. Go ahead and do that. And then follow our socials at Royal Geek Pod. We really appreciate it. So, all of that being said, we are doing The Penguin, episodes 1 through 8. And we are going to do a little bit of spoilers, obviously. So if you have not seen the series, what are you doing? You're missing out because it's pretty great, guys. All right, spoiler review is done. We are going to go ahead and do some general thoughts real quick. So, Shamato, thoughts on the series as a whole?
I mean, I thought it was phenomenal. I felt like it was really well done. All the set pieces looked amazing. The acting was really well done. There was some really cool, multiple storylines going on. They did a really good job of having, cool twists to things that were going back. You really felt like there was a game of, some 3 or maybe even 4D chess going on at certain points, depending on how many people were involved. And you just really felt like there was, constant swings in momentum that made you there were moments where you were kind of you're not sure who has the upper hand and sometimes you were even I'm not sure this is actually about the character that this is named after. Sometimes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Jordan, what about you? How'd you feel about the series?
yeah, I echo the same thing. I think, overall it was solid. There wasn't a single episode that I felt was like a throwaway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most seasons have at least one throwaway episode. But I felt they all stood up every week. I was okay, that was a good episode.
Yeah.
And
yes.
then but they stacked 8 in a row. I was that was awesome.
Yes.
But yeah, I think what you were saying with kind of the writing, it was solid across the board. Acting was awesome. And then I like how with the twist, they were all practical. Mm-hmm. So there was no behind the scenes tropes and just you could see how they got to all of them. They didn't just make any moves because they could. They made practical moves. You're okay, that could really happen.
Yeah. And I'm in a full agreement. I thought this series was absolutely incredible. The great thing about this is that Colin Farrell, who is obviously he's unrecognizable in this in the entire series, but he is a fantastic character actor, and when he commits to a role, he goes all in. And you've seen him in some crappy stuff. Usually the rom-coms that Colin Farrell's done has been pretty trash. Yeah. But when you see him in a role where he is fully engulfed
immersed,
in this character, it is insane, and he brought everything to this show.
Yeah, I think there's this really weird thing that happens with him, and it also happens with Brad Pitt. Actually, I feel like both of them are almost it's gonna sound stupid, but like they're cursed by the leading actor good looks in a way.
Yeah,
They're
I've
both.
been told that myself.
Yes, they're yeah.
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 I
Well,
understand completely.
you look like a character actor, but we all look like character actors.
Yes, that's true.
But anyway, but the two of them are like they're so good at playing these unique and odd roles, but they keep on being put like as these faces. Like, and I just don't think they're necessarily like set for that. And when you put him like for this show, like specifically like Colin Farrell, when you put him out there as the pretty boy, it just doesn't, for whatever reason, it just does not mesh.
Yeah, I agree.
And then like when he's being more in an independent film, or there's less emphasis on like him supposed to being the love interest or things like that, it makes him a lot. It gives him room. Like
Yeah.
he works much better, and he seems more comfortable in that space.
Yeah, and I mean he was a heavyweight in all of these episodes.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
he was phenomenal.
Well, I think like even in this one, like if they hadn't have gone with the makeup and the whole look, like it just wouldn't have landed.
yeah. Oh
Like-
no, yeah, you're
like,
right.
And I know there was never a chance they were going to do that, but like
Yeah.
even with him, like you say, he is a face. He's a name that everyone knows, and then like. I've watched a ton of like talk shows and interviews, and people are like, "I just didn't know it was him."
Right,
Like
correct.
other actors,
Yeah.
like I had no idea that was him. So the fact that they were able to like cover up the face and the name,
Yeah.
and then it's still like the performance shows through, like he killed it.
Yeah, and he did the X amount of hours in makeup chair and everything. Like, and he literally like spent a year in that makeup filming the series, which is, I mean, kudos to him for the commitment. It really showed, and he's getting all the praise right now. Like, if he does not walk away with like Emmy wins,
Yeah.
like it's just insane. Like, he deserves every ounce of it. So, yeah, overall series. It's fantastic, and I just want to go ahead and just like dive in and start talking about it. We talked about Colin Farrell as Oswald
Yes.
Cobb. They didn't say Cobblepot, which I guess in the Matt Reeves universe, that's gonna be a thing. It's gonna be they're named similar but not the same as the
Yeah.
comic books. I guess that's okay. I don't understand why Cobblepot seems like it could be
perfectly fine name.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
he was saying like going from that Jersey feel. He's I don't know where I saw it. Maybe it was on one of the like behind the episodes or something. But where like Cobb sounds like it could be like a name of someone from Jersey, whereas like Cobblepot sounds fancy.
Well, I think it's partial. Like
British.
you say Cobb, you can pull that in. You can be a Cobb
Yeah.
sound, which gives that accent. Cobblepot, like that just doesn't have the same
Yeah.
like pronunciation.
I don't hate it. I don't hate
Yeah.
it. I know, like, I mean, usually you want to stick as close to the comic adaptation as possible, but this is an adaptation. This is not the full fledged.
Yeah, they aren't pulling it straight out of the page.
Correct. And like, the idea of the Penguin from the comic books to what we see here are completely different. So
Yes.
it would make sense that they would go a different route, and I'm okay with it. I'm fine with the entire look and feel. Like, I didn't really care much that it wasn't comic book accurate because the performance outshine that.
Yeah.
All right, so we have one Oz character.
Yes.
Great, fantastic. I think the next character that deserves all the praise, glory, highlights, and everything is Sophia Falcone. She
Yes, Gigante.
yes, Gigante. She was on another level, man. Like,
she was so phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh my,
Yeah.
this is amazing. Like I was
Yeah.
I was straight up smitten with just her performance. It was insane.
yeah, she honestly, like, post interviews as the series went on, every interview she did, like, I was just more like enthralled with her because she's just like, I was a huge Batman fan. I've read like all the comic books, and when they said I was playing Sophia, I was like, I was already knowing the character, and she was like talking about storylines in the comic books and inspiration for her role, and I was like, this is dude, you had me. You had me. Like, this is insane. And she is a fantastic actress. Like, she doesn't get enough credit, honestly. Like, she is one of Hollywood's like unsung heroes. Like, she deserves a lot more.
Palm Springs, she was phenomenal in.
Yes.
I feel like her performance in How I Met Your Mother was a little was overshadowed by the course of the actual TV show. Nothing really to do with the way that she came in.
Yeah.
Where once again, this is one of those things where I feel like I should have rewritten the final season, and I don't know, like, and I feel like they could have made it so much better.
But she was still charming in that, even though
she was very charming. She was very charming.
Yeah,
but the thing is, they should have played into it more.
True.
Like, I mean, honestly,
they didn't know what they had because it was the final season. They did not know what they had with her. Where they couldn't, for example, like serial television at the time. Like, you can go 8 episodes and get fan critiques and like what's going, and a side character can become the main character.
Yeah.
And I feel like they would have had that kind of ability to work with her character on How I Met Your Mother. They would have done that pivot because she had that kind of, yeah.
Although legitimately, what I think they should have done is the final season just done 1 year of the family's life for every episode.
There you go.
And give it like
her time to shine.
Yes,
as why
and make it feel like she was growing.
Deserves
with the
to be a mother,
and like place them inside the universe. But anyway, I'll leave out of my that's one of my spiels about like TVs and how I would rewrite certain things.
Love it. So her Sophia was, oh my gosh, dude! I can't wait to get in her story because it is absolutely epic.
It is insane.
Yeah.
I mean, her accent was awesome.
Yes,
but like,
it was.
I think like she said so much without even having to say lines. Like just her facial expressions and like the way her
eyes and her smile was just like her like
mannerisms.
She just did so much with just that.
Yeah, so good. All right, and so the next character I feel like deserves the love. I think is Victor.
Yes,
Victor Aguilar, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
he was, for me, curveball. Like, I did not expect Oz, the Penguin, to bring in a young gun to mentor / raise / we'll get into that. I did not expect any like that type of interaction, dynamic, or anything with the Penguin character. But Vic did a fantastic job. He really sold his role, like the good kid / delinquent due to certain circumstances, and then capitalizing on his opportunities. Like,
I think he had the biggest like glow up.
Yes,
of anybody.
Yeah, yes. And like the whole, and he was so important in the sense of being the representative of Crown Point, which was such a huge part of the episode and was such a huge part. It was the part that most connected back with the Batman movie, actually. Maybe even more than like Oz, even who was in it.
Yeah.
But like just the actual Crown Point was so pivotal in reminding you of what this city is going through at the time.
Correct.
And he was that like connection.
Yeah. The actions of the Riddler directly affected
real people.
Like, and Vic is the catalyst for that, kind of.
Which is one of the hardest things to like kind of represent on screen, is like this idea of like real life consequences in comic book movies. I think it's something that they've always struggled with.
Yeah.
And like what scale you're going to put it at, what's important, what isn't important, how much you should put things on certain things. So,
well, they don't ever show like them cleaning up after the Avengers.
No, they don't.
Like,
they don't.
And this was a great, like you said, visual of that, of taking like the worst area of Gotham and be like, hey, no one cares about what's going on there. Like, the power's not even on there.
Yeah.
No one cares.
This is going to be crazy to say because Marvel, they've been doing their movies / connected TV shows for a while now.
Yeah.
But DC, like, this is how you build a world. You have a phenomenal movie, which the Batman was, which I'm due for a rewatch because it's been a couple months. Yeah, exactly. But you take that, it establishes this whole entire world in the movie, right? But then the Penguin comes along, and not only does it play off of the events that happened in the Batman, but it plays off of it in a way to where it progresses the story. Like, you still know that the mayor-elect, Real, whatever, Vidal, or I forget what her name is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Real, I know what her name is. Bella Real. There you go. She has things going on to try to rebuild the city. There's even like a scene in this show where Vic is like, "Look, they don't care about us," and then Oz goes to the congressman, councilman, and literally gets power back on. And like this is the Gotham, that world we are being accustomed to now with the new Batman, and then now the Batman 2 is going to follow this series. Like this is how you build a world. This is how you build a world and make it feel like it's not a in your face Marvel, like, oh, hey, did you catch that reference? Did you catch that reference? I'm trying to connect by making one reference. No. DC just did something that Marvel has not done yet.
Well,
and
has Marvel done anything like this gritty?
I mean,
I didn't watch Punisher.
And Daredevil on Netflix. Yes.
Okay.
They were Netflix productions before Disney
so technically,
got them back.
Those are future entities because the Punisher is coming back in Daredevil
Born Again,
which they've promised that they're going to be going
gritty
in that direction, but we'll see how it actually plays out.
Like this was really gritty. Like you could change all the names of the people in this, and it would have been a good show.
You're literally watching The Sopranos.
Well,
yeah, like you're literally doing
like
it.
you pretty much you would just be like, oh, this. It doesn't feel. It truthfully doesn't feel anything like a superhero movie or a superhero entity at all. Like it doesn't feel like it's connected to, in the sense of like to like a comic book. Like there's anything like over the top glossy or over like
there was nothing
overpowered.
Was there?
No.
Mm-mm.
I don't think so.
No, I mean you can. I mean, the made up drug, but it's just drug. I mean, it's serving its purpose. Yeah. So we went on kind of a little tangent there with Vic, because Vic is kind of the establishment of like the background, the city, and everything. Yeah. Like Vic is kind of that focal point. Vic is us. He is the audience in this show. Okay. Next character, Sal Maroni.
Yes.
Which Clancy Brown, who is a voice acting genius guru, whatever, right? Like he's been in so many DC properties as villain voices. He is literally like Mr. Crab and SpongeBob. Like he is an iconic voice, okay? And we get to see him full flesh and everything, and he just has like this bravado to him, and that it is like this gusto, like it is just like next level.
Feel
he has
to instant credibility as soon as he's on the screen. You know,
correct? Yes,
you're
and
like, he's a tough guy.
Yeah,
I mean, you size him up, you're like, yeah, I'm not messing with that guy.
Yeah.
And so we've seen Sal in the Batman universe before in The Dark Knight. Like Sal Maroni is a player. He is a player in the whole storyline in The Dark Knight. But this is a different take on him. He's locked up. He's in jail when we first meet him, which is which we see because he's part of a turf war between the Falcones and the Maronis. Like, these are two mob names that go deep into Batman lore.
Yeah, they're essentially the two biggest names in Batman lore.
Yes,
when it comes to mob families.
Yes, and I mean Batman essentially like. He starts off with like street crimes, trying to clean up the mobsters.
Yeah.
And then the characters come out like Joker, Scarecrow, Bane. Like they all come out because of Batman's influence on the mobsters, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And like at the point, like the way they play it out in the series is the Maronis were the big dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sal gets there's plays that are made on him, and they kind of become a secondary family to the
Falcone,
the final character, the Falcones, and that of course that's Sophia's family, or you know how much she's wants to be connected with that
family. You can quotes,
in quotes.
Yep.
And so the Falcones are now like the big dogs.
Yes.
You know, they're the big family that you know everyone is paying tributes to. That kind of everything funnels up to them. And they're in a time of turmoil because Carmine has just died.
Yes. From the closing scenes. Of the Batman. Yes.
and they bring up back Mark Strong to play Carmine, or well, they don't bring back, but they have him
Mark,
play
as a younger.
Yes, as a younger version of Carmine, which I thought was really cool because I always I like Mark Strong. As an
Mark
actor.
Strong's a great actor.
Yes.
But I was just curious, like, what is John Turturro doing? Like,
Yeah,
like
I
that he
didn't know
couldn't
if
do this.
I was thinking about that because I was like, was it just because they wanted him to be significantly younger, and then maybe they didn't want to do the whole thing that they did like in The Irishman or like in other movies where they're like just like de-aging all these people like digitally. Maybe from what we saw, they didn't particularly like get super deep into special effects.
They did not
in that part, at least. So maybe that was part of it, that they just didn't want to have to do that with a character.
Well, I think that's the other guy that played him in the Batman, right?
Yeah.
I'm terrible with names.
Yes.
John Turturro,
I saw like where he had said like he didn't want to be attached to this because of the like the woman abuse and like that kind of stuff, and like someone had said because like I was like, that's not the same guy, but it looks really close.
Yeah.
And so I looked it up. I was like, why wasn't he in it? And they said like scheduling conflicts. And then people were like, no, like just say what it is.
Yeah.
And he just didn't want, because of what came out about, Carmine, like he said he didn't want to be a part of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
props to him, but
yeah, I mean, that's fine. I mean, Mark Strong ended up, we as the audience understood that it was a younger version, and I mean, for the most part, it was the same character. Yeah. He wasn't in a lot.
Yeah.
He wasn't in it a lot, and it's fine. But like the last character in this, that the storyline here is like the Falcones, and it's the uncle who kind of takes over after
Vidi.
Alberto gets whacked by the Penguin in the beginning, first episode.
And then of course there's Alberto,
who's
a very like through it. He's interesting because like he changes a lot in my opinion. Like my opinion of him changes a decent bit from like the beginning to later on in the show.
Wait, are you talking about no. Alberto's the brother that dies. He's only in the first episode. What do you mean?
No, he's in
like the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
No, he's in
Spoiler.
You're talking about, Alberto's you're talking about the dude from House of Cards? Vini or whatever his name is?
No, I'm talking about her brother shows up in Centani. He's like he's a large character in Centani. The episode's Centani.
Huh? No. With flashback?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Well,
Okay, so I'm saying he's a completely different character in that
from
episode.
the flashback to where he's at.
Where
So did he regress or progress?
he okay, so he has
If it's
he
gone
has
backwards.
regressed
There
because when he's
I did not see him as like a major character. Like he was like in the background for me. Like as the storyline progressed.
But I think but he was an important character in Sophia's life.
This is true. Yes.
So I feel like he was important because he was
only
the only part of her family that she didn't despise.
Yeah.
And you could see that he was actually trying to do positive things for her.
Yeah.
So I do think there was an interesting like shift in my mind in their roles.
Yeah.
Not saying he was a major character or anything.
Right.
But
and then what was the underboss's name? His actual, is it like Vidi?
Johnny Vidi?
Yeah. Okay. Johnny Vidi, right?
What was her uncle?
Oh my.
'Cause Vidi was a cousin.
He was a Falcone
Yeah.
as well.
'Cause, like, that's the one that like Vidi was sleeping with.
Yeah.
Uncle's
Yes.
wife.
It starts with an L, I think. I think his name started with an L.
Luca.
There you go.
Yeah.
Uncle Luca. And so like, and they were all a thing. All right. So all right. I feel like those are the characters.
Yes.
This is what we're gonna do, guys. We set you up with all the characters because we're gonna talk about them all, because we're about to just shotgun through 8 episodes here.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So the way the series starts off is kind of Oz's character. He heads back to the club, and Alberto is there, who is the son of Carmine, who had just died, and they're kind of having this like emotional moment, like kind of right. And Oz is there to take advantage of the situation, but Alberto's there to like, he's trying to get, I guess, goods and treasures and stuff, like diamonds and stuff, to fund
an addiction.
Yes, his addiction,
The
but
drops, yeah.
the drops. But he's also trying to establish himself to start a new drug ring, is what we learn out later. But he makes fun of Oz. Oz kills him. Goes down this entire craziness to where he has to get rid of the body, and they get introduced to Vic because Vic's trying to steal Oz's tires.
Yes.
And
One of the most quintessential things you could be doing in a bad part of a neighborhood.
Correct. Yes, you steal rims, and so Oz ends up forcing Vic to help him remove the body, right?
Yeah.
And they kind of do this like weird buddy cop kind of like back and forth, where like you don't want to be here, but you're gonna be here. We're gonna bond along the way, but like I hate you, that kind of thing, right?
You like this air freshener?
Yes,
It's Island Paradise or something.
Yeah,
like that.
he says, "You smell that? You smell that?"
Yes.
It's nice, right?
But by the end of it, he's about to kill him, and Vic kind of speaks up for himself, stuttering.
Yeah.
There you go. And he kind of like makes a case saying like, "Hey, I can be useful. I can be useful. You can use me." And so, boom, Vic is now attached to Oz, and that's kind of how that relationship forms. But Oz gets called up to the house of the Falcones, and they want to know what the heck's happening, right?
Yeah.
And this is where Sophia interacts, and you can tell she kind of has like this I want to be more kind of thing, but I don't get enough respect. And there's a clear divide between Uncle Luca, the underboss, with Johnny Vitti, and her, kind of like a power struggle. Oz pitches this plan that Alberto told him about the drugs as his own plan, but she knows that she's the only one who knows about that plan, and there's no way that Oz should have known about that. That kind of right there is in a nutshell, because Oz is going to try to usurp the plan for new drug, but therefore, like, Sophia's like all like, hold on, that's not your idea. I'm going to get the idea because that's what it originally was. It was supposed to be both of us. Mm-hmm. And so, it's her friction with her family and Oz kind of doing his little middle management thing. Okay, so that kind of establishes where the next couple episodes are going to go.
Yeah. It's interesting because, like, in that moment, you're seeing, like, some of the chess pieces already moving. You get to see a lot of, like, the setup, and, like, Sophia is just coming back into the picture in her family. And so you kind of, like, see, that's part of the reason why there's a separation there. But then you're also seeing, like, you also kind of understand that it kind of, like, alludes to the fact that there's more there.
Yes,
like,
correct.
Is it just because she's a woman and she's trying to get in a powerful position inside of this mob family? Is it because she's been gone? Is there a third reason? Because, like, at this point, we don't really know, like, past some other, like, superficial reason why exactly she is.
She's back from Arkham.
Yes,
we know that,
and that too. Like, is it that they just don't trust her because of her supposed mental state? And then you also get to see this really great interaction of, like, the start of Oz being, like, essentially the cockroach, like, in the sense of, like, just, like, finding ways to survive, like, doing what he needs to do.
His survival instincts are insane.
Yes,
he talks his way out of so many different scenarios.
Like, so many moments where he just has to, like, and it's we see later that it's his upbringing that really like drives home all these things.
Correct.
About his about just being able to survive his moments. And you also get to this thing, like, Sophia and Oz they know each other. Like, you're like, what's that? Like, how do they know each other? Like, he's sort of connected to the family, but you aren't sure exactly how. So it does set up a lot of things where you're just kind of understanding. And I did like how I really liked the Vic Oz component of, like, it was swayed back and forth, this, like, unknowingness to it.
Yeah.
That was, like, unsettling in some ways, because Oz was never really, like, showing his cards, and you could see Vic just was, like, constantly just, like, almost in a lot of ways, he was kind of like being like Oz in the sense of like just trying to get himself 5 more minutes. Essentially, it's kind of like of life. Like that's all. Like all he was doing. Like trying.
What can I say? What can I do?
Yes, to get 5 more minutes, to get his mind off of what his mind is on. Essentially,
Yeah.
and then like you see Oz do the same thing with a bigger fish.
Yeah, I think the other character, like the end of this episode, like that was a huge player. Is his mom,
Yes,
Frances.
good.
Like
Yeah.
I think if we were
Great.
to add like another one into that major,
That's a great point.
characters,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
she was huge, and I think that was at that point in the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of that's where they start softening up Oz to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
threw
showing
me
a
off.
whole different side. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. It was really good. It was a strange
Mm-hmm.
turn.
Yeah, because I feel like the Penguin as a character, you don't really think about that side of him, but
No.
the fact that they actually gave him an interaction with his mother and kind of the story that plays out, which we'll dive much deeper into later on. Like it's something, man. It gives a whole new layer to Oz that you didn't think you actually needed, but it's
Yep.
great. And so I'm glad you brought that up because yes, she is a very pivotal player in this, and I mean I can't believe I just glossed right over that at the beginning. So
Yeah.
good, hold me accountable there, man. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So here's the thing, like a brief look into the mom. She has dementia, and she kind of has no idea what's going on. Right, her mind is deteriorating, and you know what, Shamato, I really feel like her mind would not be deteriorating if she was actually taking Magic Mind. All right, so if she was taking these mental performance shots, she would not be dealing with the kind of confusion that she was. So Magic Mind, I mean, the great thing about Magic Mind is that they inspect every bottle by hand to make sure that it is the quality standard for mental performance shots, and it really does. It helps with the clarity and focus. And one of the main ingredients in this is ashwagandha. And you're like, what did you just say, Justin? Did you sneeze? What was that? No, I did not. In all actuality, like it really helps with stress and reducing your level of stress. And so, like for me, I've noticed the biggest impact with taking Magic Mind is the middle of the day. Is the middle of the day, the work day. I take that shot, mental performance shot, and that like midday fog that you feel like you get. Like, is the end of the day going to get here? What am I actually like doing after lunch? You know, like sometimes you feel like unproductive after lunchtime. Magic Mind, take the shot, boom, dude. The sense of clarity that I get to finish my work day is insane. I absolutely love the benefits there with the ashwagandha. Amato, how's it working for you, man?
I mean, I feel like it is really helpful. Like, for me, it's not like the after lunch thing.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's the start of the day. Like, I need something like to kick off. Like, as soon as I go in pretty early in comparison to a lot of other people. But like, I need that first like hour or two is really where I need that like boost. So what I'll do is I'll pop a Magic Mind like right before I get on the clock, just so like about 10 to 15 minutes in, I'm starting to feel it. I get a nice little like, you know, get that
natural
engine
B12,
going.
right?
That
Yep.
natural B12, getting that engine going so that I can get into the day and like get rolling and just, you know, do what I need to do. But like it really helps that initial like startup. Like that is the part that really like helps me out.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. So another thing, like you can 100% money back guarantee if it fails for you or you feel like you're not comfortable with it. Which trust me, we've been taking this for a while now, and it has not let us down. I even put my wife on the experiment, and she's all on board now too. So 100% money back guarantee. You don't even have to return the bottles if it doesn't work for you. If you don't feel comfortable with it, it's not. But I promise you, it makes a difference. And so, if you would like to get a chance at Magic Mind, we have a 20% offer for you. You can go to click the link in our description here, and we are offering all of our listeners 20% off. Okay, you can just enter the promo code RoyalPod20, and you will go ahead and get 20% off your order. Okay, so that's once again RoyalPod20. Go ahead and click the link in our description, and we will hook you up with 20%. How about that? So
Good deal.
it's a great deal. Jordan,
deal.
looking at you, man.
That's good.
20%.
I'm going to do it.
Royal Pod 20.
I'm going to do it.
All right. So thank you, Magic Mind, for sponsoring the podcast. Appreciate you. So Frances, the mom, she is the in and out of her memory and what's going on, like her reality. Like she thinks she's talking to her dead kids, right?
Yeah.
It hits even harder for Oz, like as a character, right? Like this extra layer. He's taking care of his mom, who's not fully there.
Yeah.
And I just really enjoyed the dynamic there, and that plays out throughout the entirety of the series, and culminating into like a crazy finale with what ends up like taking place with her.
Which really kind of like it's interesting because like it's almost like he doesn't understand that she can't help what's going on, or that like what she's seeing. Because a lot of times he's trying to
glosses over it.
He tries to pull it out of her.
Yeah.
Like he's like, no, that's not what's going on. Like he
He's gaslighting her.
Like he's continually like pushing those facts, which is kind of like interesting because in a lot of ways you kind of think you'd want to kind of like soften that blow a little bit, and just kind of if she's like, oh, he calls you by the wrong name, you just kind of let her
go with it.
So not to set her off. But it was also interesting seeing like you got a couple of hints of that they've been connected to this life for a long time.
Yeah.
So that was interesting too because some of the stuff that she knew and some of the stuff that he told her was kind of stuff that you wouldn't just say to someone who wasn't a part of the life.
Correct, yeah.
So like she understood who the players were and she kind of like understood the sort of like the workings of that world.
Yeah. And one of the other meteor storylines that kind of go along with this is like Oz, he has this idea, which he stole from Alberto, about the new drug, right?
Yes.
And so he convinces Sophia to, I guess, go under Luca and kind of like start their own thing, right? And so we see their dynamic of Oz and Sophia kind of start to play here a little bit because they are kind of plotting together, working together. But this whole entire time that they're doing that, Oz has visited Sal Maroni in prison and is saying, hey, the Falcones are ripe for the picking, and you can get your empire back, and I'm going to help you do so. And it's going to be because of this new drug, right?
Yeah.
And so then he tells Maroni what's going on. So now Sophia...
Then he gives him his ring, the
ring back. Yes,
awesome.
he gives him the Falcone ring back, which
awesome.
Carmine took when he took over the territory, right? The turf war.
Just another great moment of like he's surviving. Like he's that cockroach. He's building contingency plans.
Yeah.
For his enemies to destroy his enemies.
Yeah.
And like they all know it too, but they all keep playing into it. They're like, no one believes a word you say, and then they
do it.
And then they
go
believe
right
it.
into
They can't help it.
He's
so
like, yeah, you're right. And then
and then essentially it's just like you only have so many people that you can actually talk to about this. That's essentially what it comes down to.
Yeah.
So with the understanding, the Maronis are like, we're gonna get this new drug and a portion of like the distribution from the Falcones, but in all actuality, Oz is working with Sophia to get this new drug pushed and produced. But then it kind of starts to get crazy because the Maronis kind of ambush Sophia and Oz, and they're in a gunfight essentially, right? Vic saves Oz and drives him away, but Sophia, she's kind of like she's in the mix, but then like she escapes too.
Yes.
And gets like knocked out, and then we are introduced to her like backstory in Arkham, which dude,
that episode Centani,
wild,
phenomenal. It was so amazing as you're just like you're let into her world.
Yes.
And like because initially through the first 3 episodes, I think it was episode 4, 3 episodes they're hinting at her time in Arkham. And in a way, she's playing into it.
They're calling her the Hangman, right?
And they're calling her the Hangman, and they're saying what she did, and she's not ever actually like
denying it.
Yes. And the first 3 episodes, she never really denies the fact that she was or was not the hangman.
Yeah.
And then in episode 4, you get that, and you're actually like, you get to see what actually happens, and she's dealing with this journalist who is trying to expose who is the hangman. And like initially you're kind of like, okay, like it's one of those moments where the hero, the journalist, doesn't know they're talking to the villain. Like, you know, one of those moments is you think you're kind of getting that playing out, but then it starts dealing with some flashbacks, and she notices some things about her mom and like
similarities with
what
hanging.
her mom did when she hung herself, and you know, seeing some things, and like she comes to the realization that it's her father.
Yeah, her dad is
like,
the actual like hangman,
yes.
killing these young women, and
at the moment you get to see her like. You also get to see something that you hadn't seen from her really in the first 3 episodes, which is her naivete.
Yeah.
Because she goes essentially straight to her father and talks to him about it. Like,
right.
And essentially sets up for her to have her life ruined.
Yeah. Well, and then this also showcases Oz's survival ability again, because at this time he is her driver and that's it.
Yes.
But he notices that she's meeting with a reporter as he drops her off while she talks to her.
Yeah, and playing both sides even in that moment, because it's like, you really shouldn't be doing this. Mm-hmm. And like counseling her, being her friend in that moment essentially, or advisor in that moment. But then also,
like I felt like she kept saying throughout the whole series, like that he like set her up, and that he
correct.
And like I was trying to think, like, did he? Because like it felt like in the moment, like when they took her to Arkham, like he didn't know what was going on. Like his interaction with him and like the cops, they were like, "Shut up, Penguin."
Yeah.
And I think he 100%.
Well, no.
I
don't think he knew that Carmine was gonna turn on her and like frame her and put her in Arkham. I thought that he was going to go to Carmine. This is what he thought. Like, I feel like Penguin thought. He went to Carmine, told on her, thought she was just going to get a little like slap on the wrist or something like that. Like, I don't think.
Up.
And he would get bumped up for bringing the information, but I don't think he anticipated Carmine pinning it on her and then her going to Arkham. Like, I don't think that was in his intentions, because I think you are right, Jordan, that it looked like it was genuine when the cops came and they said, "Shut up, Penguin." It looked like it was like him genuinely concerned about what they were going to do and what was happening, and that kind of, for me, was his first like, oh, like this is the Falcones are the real deal, and I gotta kind of watch my back now. Like I gotta kind of make sure that my survival mode is even like elevated, and I think that's what kind of forces him and drives him to the level he's at in where we catch up present day.
Yeah, and I think in this episode you get to see the really important moment of the break in her trust with her family.
Yeah.
Of course. So where only she comes down to only Alberto is the person that she can trust. And everyone else everybody else in her family at least is a
Yeah. And everyone else, it's everyone else because they write like affidavits and letters and like all this kind of stuff saying that she's had a history of mental illness, which is clearly not true. But every single member, like I think it's Alberto that says like, yeah, they all wrote something, and then you literally see the pages flipping, and it's like family member name, family member name, family member name.
Yeah.
And this scene like plays out even further when she's released later on, and she's talking to her family, and she's like, none of you, every single one of you know that I'm not crazy. I didn't do those things, but yet you put your signature on those papers. Like she calls them out blatantly into their face, like at the Last Supper, right?
Yeah.
It is that whole like Last Supper scene too was like really good too.
Yes.
I think that was at the end of the episode, wasn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gosh,
her knocking out.
Yeah. She she kills the entire family.
Yes.
Except for
the one little.
I guess her second cousin.
Yeah. Gia.
Gia.
And Johnny Vitti, because she wants to take her time with Johnny Vitti.
Like, I thought it was cool because, like, did she go into his room earlier in the episode and open the window?
She did, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, like, they didn't. I don't think they did. They didn't allude to why she was doing it.
No,
she
they
was
didn't.
just doing
She's
it.
just doing it. Yep.
Yep.
And then, of course, it was really cool because, like, then she essentially uses Johnny Vitti to pull the family together, to pull the entities, the associates
Yeah.
And then like it was such an amazing like moment because like I see all the calculating in that moment from her.
Yeah.
You know, you see it because she needed him because she needed to get all of these associates together, and she knew she needed somebody like
She talked about respect too,
like Vidi
yeah.
to pull in there. And I think she knew that he was going to say something that would come off in a way. I think she had the entire time she planned to kill him in front of everyone.
I think you're absolutely right.
It's
Too.
a
Like-
huge
Yeah.
power move.
Yeah, like
Massive.
the absolute power move. Just like, hey, here. And then on top of that, like she does a perfect great job of the carrot and the stick. That's what that moment was. Because the stick, of course, is her killing Johnny Viti, but the carrot is all that money that she puts on the table
Correct,
for all
yeah.
those associates, you know, for them to do that.
Yeah.
I do have like a kind of like, if they ever like get into it, a theory about something that could be like a twist on her character. The possibility that she was not the original Hangman, but that she was the second set of Hangmen. Like she was so traumatized in the moment of her father's when her father kills her mother, as that was like the initial act, and then it stained her to do those future actions. And I think there's like moments where like later on, like she does things that it is willing to do things that kind of point at her having some of these issues.
Yeah.
You know, like maybe she did have some underlying things that were, you know, causing this. And on top of that, like, you know, what if those letters weren't just fake? They were legitimate things.
True.
That, like, especially like the like, I understand, like, a guy like Johnny Viti or, like, a guy in the family, well, like, her random cousins.
Yeah, who
like,
she vacationed with in
yeah,
Italy.
like,
Yeah.
like, is there really a reason why, like,
Well, the reason is Carmine made her.
yes,
That's what the
there
main
is,
reason was.
there
Yeah.
are those,
Yeah.
those reasons as well, but it also kind of, like, there were moments where, like, it was kind of leaning in that direction in my mind.
The only thing that I can say that that would make you agree with that is like with the awkward confrontation in the hallway with her cousin, and where Gia pops up, and they're kind of having that conversation. The cousin, I forget her name, Angela, I think her name is something that starts with A. I think. She, if she signed off on that letter, right? She would know that she's innocent, right? If she was forced to sign on that letter, but she's still very hesitant with her because it's either hesitation of, oh, she probably knows that I lied, or it's hesitation of like, there's something wrong with this chick upstairs that I don't want to be too, like, I don't know, too interface, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. The dynamic was crazy, but all the Falcones get killed because
and
she
like
gasses everybody.
what she does to Magpie, like
in
She
the-
just breaks.
yeah,
Oof.
like, and I understand like a lot of this is probably like partially a commentary on our mental health system and our prison system. In that moment in that
You're right.
episode is what they're really partially trying to do. But I think they are trying to allude at the fact that there are some legitimate like things about her that are not 100% like.
Yeah, she's not squeaky clean.
Yeah.
Is basically what it is. So fantastic backstory for her. Like
Yes.
it really established her character. And then like her play at being the head boss. She even changes their name from Falcone to Gigante.
Yes.
And so that's a huge play. Oz during this time has realized that the Maronis are no good. They're no help. If anything, they're standing in his way, and he wants to squash them and kind of take over this thing on his own, right? And so him and Vic is still hanging around, making himself useful. The best dynamic here is when Vic starts to kind of break through to Oz, and Oz starts seeing him as almost an equal.
Yeah.
Or
like a version of himself.
Correct,
In a lot of ways,
yes.
I think he sees him because they were from the same neighborhood.
Yes.
You know, like
they talked about, did you get this, like the slushies, like
Yes.
the little, like at the corner of the street.
Yeah.
You ever mix the flavors? And Vic's like, no, I never have. And he's like, oh, it's like the best, like kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
It really, like, once again, it humanizes them, but it also puts them on level playing field because it kind of shows like the Penguin to where he's at currently in status wise, and Vic where he's at status wise. Vic can achieve that, and he can accomplish that. I mean, I think it helped with potentially like Victor's trajectory and where he could go. Like he could be the Penguin essentially. It's like basically what Oz was trying to talk to him about.
Which, not to get too far ahead, but also negatively affects him because Oz is a very insecure person. Like
very, yes.
Like, so he sees any potential threat as a threat.
Yes.
Even if they're not a threat yet, even if they're never going to be a threat. Like, who knows if Vic would ever become a force,
a player,
a player against him. But I think Oz has had to fight and like scrape for everything that he has, at least in his mind and whatever it may be, that he sees any potential as being something that needs to be squashed if it's gonna get in his way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think like this episode also was whenever, like I think it starts with him with Nadia and Taj, like in that same, like that's the one where he lights them on fire.
Yes.
Although I will say, okay, so
burning.
The one part of the show that I'm going to make a point about, the actress who played Nadia was not good. I did not.
All right, I was gonna say something about it, but I was afraid I was gonna step on like a landmine, like and be insensitive. Like, what's with her voice?
I don't know. I think it's just she has a deep voice.
It's a deep voice and a thick. She has a kind of like a thick accent.
If that's it, then it was terrible. If she's got some kind of vocal cord thing,
no, I don't believe so. And to tell you the truth, anything I've seen her in, she's been subpar.
No, you're right. She's kind of subpar.
It's funny. Like I feel like whenever other actors were talking about her, like they talk about her in like this glowing light, and I'm like, she's being like gaslighted.
She's been around a while.
Yeah. She was the one that I was like, I don't.
Yeah.
Well, she went up in flames, so it didn't. It's okay.
Okay. So the moment that they're going up in flames was actually slightly taken back from me from what she said. She says something like
she didn't have the best writing. Like her lines,
like
were not
the
that
line that
good.
she says right before they go
she
up.
Yells, "Oh, this is hot." No, I'm just kidding.
She legitimately says like, I forget what it is, but like it was a line that was like, it was really dumb and
cheesy,
not super well, like
in the moment. It wasn't. It shouldn't. Yeah, like a normal person wouldn't say.
Like it was just like, what is going on? Like I was like. That was legitimately like the only part of the show where I was like, this is not hitting for me. I didn't feel like she was super.
Yeah.
I felt like she was awkward.
She was a means to an end. That's what she was. She was
literally just supposed to be the person who gets Sal Maroney, like gets his vigor
ignites
up.
Sal and what he needs to do. So
literally, it gets him off himself to where he's like, okay, I got to get myself back in the game.
Yeah. Correct. Which he eventually escapes, and he escapes in interesting fashion. Like he literally takes a stab wound to the gut in order to escape, but he does escape. So now Oz is dealing with Sophia and her cronies, and then Sal and whatever is left of his empire, that kind of thing. And Oz ends up like forming a distribution center underground, which is a great homage to Tim Burton, like the Penguin operated in the sewers and underneath in the Batman Returns, right? Which I thought was fantastic that they did that.
Yes.
And so they kind of got this well-oiled machine going on. Sophia is like, we need to send a message to anybody who's buying the Bliss, the new drug. And so they're killing people for even having the drug, and therefore it's kind of rattles is it the triad? I think is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yep.
The triads are kind of like, or they're like the biggest of the small fish.
Yeah. And so it rattles them enough to where they don't want any part in Oz's operation. But Sal is like, Oz, I need to get him for killing my family. And Sophia is like, you know what? I can capitalize off of this. And so they form an alliance between Sal and Sophia against Oz. And then it goes down after that, man. They end up disrupting the distribution, and they end up getting Frances away from Crown Point because that's where Vic decides to hide her when he has no choice, right? And there's a really interesting scene when Vic brings Frances back to his buddy's house in Crown Point, and they're kind of in there cold because the heater doesn't work. There's no electricity. And their conversation that they have, there's like a moment where Vic and Frances are kind of just like they're talking, and she's like, I was supposed to be taken care of. Oz said he was going to get me out of this life. And we kind of learn more about the upbringing of Oz throughout this conversation. And he had two brothers that were killed. And there's a big underlying thing that is not addressed at that moment, which is eventually addressed in the last 2 episodes of the season, which I want to get to in a minute. But she clearly has something wrong. Like she's like misremembering things, or Vic's kind of trying to get it out of her. But I do think that Vic and Frances shared a couple moments here that were interesting. I enjoyed it actually. So Crown Point, everything went down there. She said she's supposed to be in a penthouse, and here she is, Crown Point, no heat. She can't even listen to her music, that kind of thing, right? And Vic confronts Oz, and he's like, I mentioned this earlier in the podcast, but Vic's like, we got to do something, and Oz ends up going to the councilman and gets all the power turned back on, which is a huge play because the councilman's going to come up in the last episode, which is a pretty big player here. I will mention this. There is some Easter eggs in this Crown Point scene with potentials. 2 things. One is there's a poster that they walk past that is kind of advertisement for Gotham Corp. And that is who Victor Freeze, he works for, researches for, is Gotham Corp. And the poster kind of has like ice themed to it. Which is very interesting. Well, obviously, Dr. Freeze works with cryogenics and stuff like that. So that's a potential, right? Also, on the way into Crown Point, the bridge that they go through, around, or whatever, right? The bridge is named Elliott Bridge, and Elliott family is a very, very prominent family in the Batman lore, potentially alluding to the storyline of Hush, which it would be very interesting to see if that is an adaptation in Batman 2. So that all came from the same episode, which was pretty cool to see. All right, moving on to let's get closer to the finale here. I think we've gone on quite a bit. There's a big back and forth play between territories and Oz establishing his power in this gang war. Sophia ends up kidnapping Frances.
Yes.
And therefore leading Oz to focus solely on getting his mom back, right? To which Sophia has now an accomplice, which is an old doctor that was from Arkham,
who's a bit of a sadist.
Yes, I would say that.
Masochist too.
Masochist too. Yep. He has techniques to jog people's memory, and so we find a flashback scene of what happens with Frances and how she discovers her boys died and what she knows is the truth, and so. Through Oz and Frances' flashback together, because Oz kind of remembers, he's kind of remembering back at the same time, but basically Oz and his 2 brothers went off to go play and be kids, and they were being rude to him, similar to Alberto. How Alberto was kind of just
hairpin trigger.
Yep, hairpin trigger. He ends up locking his brothers in this water overage tank that they cannot get out of.
Yeah.
And it's a heavy rain, and the water fills up and drowns his brothers, and they die. And how awkward, Jordan, how awkward was the scene where they're watching a movie together, and it's raining in the background, and he keeps looking back over his shoulder.
Smiling.
Dude, what the heck?
At any point there, he could have
said
fixed it. Like
something.
He could have done something.
Yeah.
And it proved that like he knew what was going to happen. It wasn't just y'all are screwed. I'm locking you in here. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like he knew.
I think the more and more they focus on the rain, like at first I'm like, no, he doesn't know. He doesn't know. But the more they focused on the rain, I feel like he understood what that was that they were in.
Yeah, like he's sitting there smiling and like as happy as could be.
Do you think he thought they were going to be killed by or drowned? Or do you think they thought that the water was just going to get high enough and they were just going to be like swimming and like he'll have to go and let them out the next day?
I think he knew.
It was okay. All right. What about you, Shema? You think he knew that he was
I don't know.
killing them?
I don't know if he necessarily thought he was killing them.
He wanted his mom all to himself. He did seem like he was very mom focused.
Yeah, he was definitely a mama's boy.
Mm-hmm. He didn't have any other moments though in any of his childhood scenes or anything where he's like, I legitimately miss them. Like you would be like, I miss them too, Ma.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah. I do think
That's
it
true.
was like
That's a good point.
it may come down to something like maybe he didn't know whether they were going to die or not, but I don't know if he cared whether they died or not. Like in that moment, like he cared about the fact that like you guys said that he's going to get his mother alone and stuff like that to himself.
Which we see the two perspectives of the same situation. Like Oz, through his eyes, we see that one day his mom was like beaten up and over the loss of her sons.
Yeah.
And the only way she got over it was to go take him out, going dancing and dressing up nice.
And it was like, oh, it's awesome. It was a great moment for us.
He had an enjoyable evening, and it stood out to him.
Take care of you, and like
Yep. And then on the flip side of it, which we reveal like from the Dr. Rush, what he does, his techniques, is that Frances, she knew what he did because she found the flashlight in his pocket.
Yeah.
And she knew that he was there. She knew what they did when they were there. And Rex, who was a like local which mob underboss kind of thing,
essentially was his idol and what largely kind of who he was trying to like emulate in a lot of ways.
Correct.
Even to the point to where you were saying like trying to get the power back on.
Yeah.
Like that was something that he felt like I think Rex would have done.
Correct. Yeah. And Rex basically says there's two ways you can approach this. You can build him up, build this monster up, and he can be very successful at what he does and like kind of foster it, help it to grow, that kind of thing. Or the other thing is you just let me know. Just let me know, basically. And so we see that through Frances' perspective, she chooses to kill him. Like she says, "You're gonna ride with Rex tonight. You're gonna go home with Rex," and he's excited because he's like, "That's the guy that I want to be."
Yeah, he had that, like, the golden chariot or whatever that.
That's right. That's right.
Yes, yes.
But in all actuality, it was to kill him.
Yeah, he was the only one that like when they saw Rex that was happy about it.
Yeah,
you know.
But
that was my favorite scene in the whole.
I think
the whole show.
Honestly, for me too.
Like
be honest with
I
you.
love the use of like the older actress. Like
yes.
I like because it meant like okay, you're seeing it through her eyes here, and there was a cool point where like it was like the younger actress like in the mirror at one point, but I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, no, I that scene was very telling because once again, you have a mother who knows that her children were killed by her only remaining child, and to make the tough decision to put an end to a monster before it becomes a fully grown monster.
Yeah,
and the biggest thing here is that Oz, even as a child, was able to talk himself out of a situation because we've seen throughout the entire series up to this point, like we first revealed this like at the end of episode 7 into episode 8, that like Oz, he literally like he talked himself out of being killed, and we've seen it numerous times, like at least 3 times before in the previous 6 episodes. So he does it. He saves himself essentially as a child, and then he goes on to climb the ladder in the Falcone family and to eventually be his own boss.
Yeah. Which I think it's also really cool because it's like this idea that through this whole time, Oz thinks that it was his love that got his mom out of that phase, when really it was her hate for him that got her out of that phase.
Yeah.
You know, like, so it's a very like sadistic, like, it's a twisted view, and it's kind of like it's really kind of nuts because you have this Oz has this huge hole, this want to be something greater, like through the entire show, even from childhood, and then there's like, and like, what could he want? And he has this mom that he is basically put on this pedestal, and she's perfect, and she's you know. And she's always loved him, and then like it's sad in a way because like she doesn't love him, she doesn't even really like him, and she's she's tormented by what he did, and you're seeing this moment of this person who thinks he's loved but is really on an island to himself.
And so Oz, his distribution is kind of disrupted by Sal. They have like a fight, but Sal kind of has like a stroke, heart attack, and dies. Which was kind of, I think that was like the one moment that like I was kind of like, I kind of wish that didn't happen. I wanted to kind of see more development from that. But Sal dies, and Sophia, she ends up blowing up the entire thing, and Oz has to go and turn himself in, essentially, to Sophia so that he can get his mom back. But the mom is already confessed to the doctors that she knows that Oz killed her kids, and Sophia, using mind games, is trying to pin them against each other, which ends up the mom, Frances, getting hit in the head really freaking hard, and winds up knocked out, and they have to bring her to the hospital where she ends up having brain damage. She's a vegetative state is what the doctor says, which I loved. She's a freaking vegetable, like which was pretty wild. But the final play is Oz setting up to try to win back the distribution rights and the territory and take it over, because he's convincing all of the number 2s that they can be more. They can be ambitious. They don't have to sit under the thumbs of the number 1s and control. And a lot of this is thanks to Vic, because Vic stands up for Oz and says that Oz has always been there for you guys, even though your bosses are not seeing it. Oz has been there.
That was him and that Link guy.
Yes, Link. Who is the second in the triads. So yes, that's true. Link and Vic. And so a big meeting goes down, and Oz. Sophia's like, whoever captures Oz can have my empire, to which she then goes and burns her whole entire house down, which clearly she was never going to turn it over.
No.
But Oz convinced everybody that to work with him. And the scene where all of the top bosses are getting killed by their number 2s.
That Godfather.
Yep. How incredible was that, man? It was absolutely incredible. We see Link do it first.
Yes.
And then we do all the other ones. Back to back to back to back, only for Sophia to be captured by Oz, and he's once again her driver. Full circle.
Yep.
But prior to that, Oz visits the councilman and tells them this wonderful story of.
It was a really, really close to being the truth.
It was honestly
it was like 1 degree off.
The 1 degree off was him being involved. It was the 1 degree off.
Yeah, essentially. It was just slightly skewed.
It's like a lot of like stories like I told like my parents growing up, like the lies I told, like because I wasn't clever enough.
Yeah.
Just change one detail.
That's it. One detail.
Yeah.
That's it.
The most damning bit of evidence.
Yeah.
You just like Tilt it.
So he basically sells out Sophia to be the fall guy, and she ends up getting arrested and going back to Arkham. Meanwhile, Oz has retaken the turf war battle, and he is the sole person now. And so him and Vic get to sit there and watch the sunrise on a wonderful day, and they have a bonding moment that is absolutely incredible. They are talking about the future kind of stuff. They're talking about what they accomplished.
Talking about family.
They're talking about family
Yep.
and how vulnerable people can be. And I don't know how soon you guys realized this was going to happen. I kind of picked up on it very, very early on in the conversation where I said, he's about to kill Vic. Like,
Yeah.
It does 100% mirror the first time he was going to kill him.
correct. Yes.
Yeah.
And Vic says the line, "You're like family to me." He's like,
Yeah.
you're basically like my family. And Oz's reaction is just like priceless, dude. He's like, yeah. And because of that, because Oz knows of what happened with his mom, that if anybody sees your weakness, they have an edge over you. They hold something over your head. To which Oz was kind of the catalyst of all the number 2s overthrowing the number 1s, and he's like, Vic came from where I came from.
Yep.
He could have the same trajectory as me, and he's seen too much. I don't want him. I don't want to ever be in a compromised position to where my power and my throne that I've just accomplished is taken from me.
Yeah.
So then he strangles Vic, and Vic screaming as much as he could, "Stop, Oz, stop! Oh, like don't do this, don't do it!" Like, dude, what a freaking scene, man!
Yeah, what a way to go out!
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's like he didn't shoot him.
Yeah,
he didn't have someone else do it. Like with his own hands,
bare hands.
Yeah.
And to that, the I guess from episode 1 to episode 7.5, you're all in favor of Oz. As soon as he does this moment, you're like, Oz is a villain, and he's always been the villain.
He's always been the villain.
And even though these episodes made me like him, even though these episodes made me really like favor the character of Oz, at the end of the day, he is a villain and has always been the villain. And now my mindset is back on track with Oz bad, Batman good, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Like Oz is never supposed to be the protagonist ever.
Nope.
And so I get the purpose behind that. I still don't like it. I mean, Vic was a great character. I thought Vic had a lot going for him. Even the episode where Vic is reaching out to his girlfriend or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like even that whole dynamic back and forth, that decision of going with her and escaping Oz, and the hold that he has over him, or potentially achieving your potential.
But even in that moment, he's almost sealing his own fate, because the idea of him reaching his potential is the fear of Oz.
Yes, that's true.
Like because
I wish he would have given him a choice. The choice, like he never would have left. And I know that, but like I wish like it wasn't just like I got to kill you. You
right?
know?
Yeah.
Like I think at that point, like Vic could have gotten out because Oz was rising. So like the only person that would have like pulled him back in would have been Oz.
Yeah.
So I wish he would have given him that, but like it wouldn't have made any sense.
So now the final scene of this series kind of is a really sweet cherry on top for me, because we get a new car. Looks fantastic.
Oh, yeah, looks great.
He is in a 3-piece suit with a purple vest, and a cane, I believe. I think he has a cane.
he has a cane, yes.
I didn't see a top hat. Did you guys see a top hat?
Yes.
Yeah, it was?
One in his hand,
There is
I think.
In his hand, right?
I don't know if it was
head.
in his hand or if it was right next to the mirror.
Okay.
But it was 100% there.
Okay, top hat, and he's got the penthouse suite.
Yes.
With his mom in the middle of the room.
Ooh.
On a ventilator with a tear coming out of her eye, and then he walks back down, and his lady of the night friend Eve, who is creepily dressed like his mom,
Yes.
and the hairstyle like his mom, telling him she's proud of
How much
him.
a good boy he is.
He's a good boy,
Ooh.
so proud of you, and
really weird.
hugging him, very cringe, but also very like character developing as well. Like
Yes.
a lot was said in that one moment.
You get a lot into like the mind
of Penguin, right?
yes,
of
like
where
how
he's
much
at.
control his mother has over him.
And what he needs from her.
Yes.
And the camera pans out. We go out the window, and then we see the bat
then
signal.
click.
The bat signal, and my goodness, dude, I needed that. As simple and subtle as that was, we needed that because Batman 2 is. I mean, it's still a couple years away. It's 2 years away.
Yeah.
But I needed it to reestablish kind of my thought process. And Colin Farrell said post finale that he's going to be in at least 6 scenes in Batman 2, which it could be similar to the opening of The Dark Knight where the Scarecrow's in it and he's just kind of taken down, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Could be similar to that.
Well, I thought I heard something about he's going to be in a few scenes in Batman 2 and then he's going to have a larger role in a future project.
Which is possible,
But-
yeah. I don't think. I mean, his character's not dying. Batman doesn't
no.
kill people. Like it's not. That's not the case.
Yeah.
So
Now, I do think. Oh, so you said that there was that moment with Vic and how he's a villain, and like if they really wanted to be like putting the stamp on it, that was the stamp. Like his penthouse, and seeing the Batman, the bat symbol coming up was like that was the stamp being like
Correct.
Hey. You
Yep.
know how this whole thing been about him?
it's not.
He's the villain.
Yeah.
He is the villain. But I do
Because
think
it comes after the line of no one can stop us now. Right?
Yeah, like
Yes.
Gotham is yours.
Yeah.
baby.
yes, not
Oh,
only
yeah.
that, but I think there's also another line that they draw a little earlier in the episode where they set up for the possibility of Sophia being an anti-hero
That's right.
because of her. She gets a letter from her half sister,
Selena
Kyle.
Catwoman.
Catwoman, yes. And the reason why I'm pointing towards her being an anti-hero is because of Selena Kyle's
Motives
anti-hero
towards the end,
motives.
yeah.
Lots of times go back and forth. She very much treads on the line of, lawful, unlawful.
Yeah.
So I think there is a possibility that they once again kind of like maybe she goes in that direction, and I think they're kind of like splitting like. Sophia goes in the path of potentially being an anti-hero type role.
Yeah.
And the Penguin
There's a potential
is
spin-off there.
a straight villain role.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. I'm glad you brought the Selena Kyle scene up, which at first when I watched that scene, I was like, okay, interesting. I'm not sure how that kind of fits. And then I had to play that scene again. And Sophia, her only connection to the family was her brother, right?
Yes.
Alberto. And she thought she lost all that, right? The fact that she is told it's from your half sister, I think for her that sparks I still have family out there.
Yeah, I
that
think
kind
she
of
was
thing.
broken.
Yes.
Like no fight left in her. Like whereas like the first time she was in Arkham, like she had fight.
Yes.
And like they definitely broke her.
Yes.
But they broke her in a way that made her stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like this time it was like, oh no,
Yeah.
like,
The
she's
scene-
just in the corner.
The scene ended with a smile, like she was smiling.
Yeah.
And
And
so I do see a potential
Yeah. And
play there.
And I think it's interesting because of the fact that because she's the half sister, I think Sophia can kind of see it as she is family, but she's not that family.
Yeah.
Like
That's true. Yeah.
you know,
good point.
like
she's. I don't think I have to worry about her. She's not been
she's
influenced
close-
by the Falcone.
She's close enough, but she's not that
Yeah.
close to where she was a part of the destruction of her the first time. So I think that could be interesting to see how that plays out. And did you notice how she kind of looked like she had the Penguin haircut from the Gotham TV series?
No, you're right. It was kind of like choppy, right?
Yes.
Choppy.
Yes.
Mullet, wasn't it?
It was interesting. It was like a weird faux
But
longer mole.
Not so much like the mullet part, but like the front part looked a lot like the character that that played the Penguin in the Gotham TV series.
Yeah, it was interesting. So yeah, overall production value was fantastic. Story was fantastic. Cinematography was absolutely incredible, through the roof. Like the way they did the colors and the shadings and the the sceneries and down to like the focus shots, close ups, like it was all on point, and it all hit. And,
it was all. It was dark,
mhm.
but it wasn't like a Batman. All the movies are really dark,
Right, correct.
but it wasn't like over. Like you could. There was some.
It wasn't
scenes
Game
in
of
the day-
Thrones level.
It was gray. Like honestly, that's really what it felt like.
Yeah.
It felt like it was like it just felt like everything was dreary
Yeah.
and kind of like downtrodden a lot of the time.
So
that's what they were getting into. And you also didn't feel like the dark was being used to
cover up anything.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly, which has become like this huge
Hollywood's
trope.
go-to.
Yes, that is their go-to.
You don't have to
cover
spend
up.
as much money in CGI when it's all dark. That kind of
Yes.
thing. So yeah, overall, guys, I really did enjoy this series.
Yes.
And this is not technically part of like the James Gunn experience. James Gunn has said the DCU, the Batman project and anything spin-off from that is going to be considered an Elseworld project. So this is technically an Elseworld project. But if it's gonna be this quality, man, keep it coming, man.
Yeah,
keep it coming.
That's the part that I'm like
Yeah.
interested about. It's like
Yeah.
if you're gonna bring the quality, that's all I care about. I don't care
Yeah.
I don't care if you kept every single one of those superheroes in a separate universe and just kind of like let them do their own thing in their bubble, but it was super quality.
Yeah.
Go for
Go
it.
for it. Yep. All right. Any final words, guys, on the series as a whole? I know we skipped over a few like minor storylines, but I
Yeah.
mean, if there was one you wanted to touch up, bring up right now, now's the time. Final thoughts, fellas.
I think it was solid. I do like how they set up, obviously for Batman 2, but then also they set up to where they could spin this off in so many
Yeah,
directions.
that's true.
Yeah.
They've still got Joker in there. You've got Julian Rush, who a lot of people are saying could be Scarecrow. Like,
Yeah.
there's just
Yeah, that would make sense.
there's unlimited amounts that they could spin off, and it'd still be good. I think.
Yeah, that's great.
So yeah, I love that, and they left it open ended, and I really like the fact Batman wasn't in it at
Yeah.
all.
Oh, yeah.
That was it showed that it's standalone, and just like you said, that subtle at the end, the bat symbol, like that was awesome.
And I did see an interview with Matt Reeves where he was talking about like the reasoning why Batman wasn't in it, or like why Batman wasn't showing up. And he was basically just like, there had been this huge disaster. He has so many things that he is worrying about.
Yeah.
Like, and he's also at the beginning of his run as Batman. He has so many things he's worrying about. This thing just happened to be a part of that world that he is not.
Well, when you hear about a turf war, I mean,
Yeah.
if you were Batman, which many of us have fantasized about, if you're looking about a
Give me
turf
his
war
bank account.
and it's if it's two families fighting over one thing, right? Wouldn't you want to wait for like one to kind of win so that you can just defeat one rather than trying to take out two?
Which essentially that's what Oswald was doing.
Yes, correct. So that's pretty funny. All right, fellas. I think we've talked long enough about the Penguin. Fantastic series. Rewatch it over again. Like, I would gladly do that. There's so many more things I'm sure I'll pick up on. So yeah, all that being said, let us know what you guys thought. Hit us up in the comments, DM us, whatever. We would love to talk about it with you. So yeah, for Jordan, special shout out. Thank you for filling in for the known DC hater T-roll.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Love you, have you, man. Shamato, thank you so much for being so consistent here. And everyone, I'm Sandy, and we will see you next time, you peasants.